who's already in the grand finals. The other Korean is going to try to get there through this best of 5. But to get there, he has to go through this lovely lady in the bottom left side, representing the Shopify Rebellion. Perhaps the surprise of the tournament so far, it is Scarlett.
In the bottom right, storyline killer. It is the Blue Zerg from Dragon Phoenix Gaming, Rogue.
I gotta say though, to me Rogue is like a fine wine. I start appreciating him more and more with time going by. He's fun in these interviews so far, in the most recent tournaments. I even think some of his games have been quite fun, and this is why we like both players here. We're just casually gonna kick things off with Hatch first at the gold on Blackburn on both sides. I feel like we've seen it quite often where one player tries it, or someone is thinking about it, but then there is a 12 pool. I don't think I've casted a lot of ZVZs in Blackburn where we both go Hatch first at the gold.
No, I think that's absolutely the unique part of this. If one player does it, okay, that's kind of fun, it happens. When they both do it, well, this is already going to set up into a very, very aggressive ZVZ to start the day.
Yeah, I love it. I do think that for Scarlett to be successful and come out victorious in this best of 5, the games have to be a little bit messy, right? Scarlett is, and has always been, just a crazy Zerg that is willing to make a lot of units when you're quote-unquote not supposed to make units. But because you're not supposed to make those units, the opponent is often not quite ready for it, and then Scarlett can just overwhelm her opponent. And this is potentially going to be just very fun, and I think a very long Ling Bane battle, right? Because sometimes you can obviously skip the Banelings, go straight into Roaches, or make your safety Baneling nest, but there should be a lot of potential to deal damage in either the main base or at the gold. So I feel like we're going to be stuck in Ling Bane for quite some time.
Yep, Ling Bane should be the kind of the go-to here because of that mobility and just being able to fire up a lot of units off lower drone counts as well. Yeah, it's going to be kind of fun. I'm excited to see where maybe the differences come around for either player as well, right? Does one player sneak a couple extra drones in and take an advantage from there?
Is one of them willing to maybe drop an Evo Chamber and even go for +1 melee, which I know takes a little while to kick in, or +1 Caro base to potentially survive some Baneling hits? Because it does feel like, alright, if this is your first base, you clearly cannot give it up. You cannot just lose your base and then take your natural again. I have the feeling we're going to be on Ling Bane for quite some time. Rogue is already going up to 3 bases before the Baneling nest.
Yep, just going to be taking that nice and quickly, while Scarlett is just going to have her Baneling nest that much further along. Rogue has a couple of those Lings in the natural, so that could be kind of deadly, right? You move a couple Banes there, you sneak them up. As Scarlett starts a Spine as well, so she's not taking a third and starting a Spine. Okay, that's definitely a weird combination.
I'm actually going to take a look at Scarlett's vision. Scarlett has her Overlord right now reaching the natural of Rogue. She is aware of the fact that Rogue has the gold. I mean, perhaps just expecting... Okay, Scarlett is going to crank out 8-9 more drones while Rogue is already building Links. So I was like, why are we building the Spine? But I guess Scarlett wants to build the Spine because she wants to be the one making the units a little bit later than her opponent. And then obviously if you survive the first wave, then you're going to have a little economic advantage for yourself. But pretty crazy call, but I don't hate it.
Yeah, it kind of makes sense. I think these Banelings can be deadly, of course. They're morphing into the back of Scarlett's natural. They can run around up into the main. We'll see if they can connect, as Rogue is going to put pressure on elsewhere as well. Behind 5 workers, still making Lings, as his third is about to finish up.
Yep, Scarlett only has a single queen in her main base. The Lings of Rogue are going to protect these Banelings. Rogue should be A-moving here, I think, to pick up these Lings. The Banelings going to make their way into the mineral line. And these extra drones that Scarlett made, well, I gotta say, that could have been a lot worse. But there is still a lot of potential in this one Bane. Scarlett does have her own Baneling show up. But that is a lot of drones going down already, Waddy.
That's already going to equalize the work count here, and that's obviously big as Rogue now coming through with more Lings. And he just had more units, right? We'll see if the Spine can make a difference, as it is helping out on this gold at the moment. A couple more Banes morphing in for Scarlett, but right now being overwhelmed by Lings. She is going to lose this Queen. No! Keeps it alive at the last moment. Now it goes down. A couple Banes will finish, and that will help Scarlett hold. And Rogue does not have Banes of his own. Still making Lings. Couple Banes on the way finally, but there's so many Banes of Scarlett now.
Yep, Scarlett has just lost 8 more drones in the main base. I can only assume. Rogue managed to sneak a couple of extra Lings and Banes into the main base. Already has Roaches on the way as well. The Roach run of Scarlett isn't even done yet. And it feels that Rogue has just handled all of this a little bit better. The gold was saved, the main base was exposed, and Rogue found the main. And he found everything he was looking for in that main base.
Yeah, that was just brutal. And at this point, Rogue's just going to keep on spamming units. Now, Scarlett has a lot of money in the bank. Maybe she can get some Roaches up, as these Banes decide to just go for the Spine. Then they kind of want the drones. They get the Spine in the end. you know, that opens up the gold base, and I don't mind that at all, as roaches come out from Rogue as well. He is down on workers again, but just has such an army advantage without a spine to help out and being spread out everywhere. I think Scarlett is going to find herself in some continued trouble.
Oh, the drones are actually being evacuated now. It seems like Scarlett is willing to give up on the gold and just trying to stabilize on these two bases with a bit of high ground advantage, but losing the gold is obviously going to be a very big deal. 7 drones have gone down again. I guess a couple of them have gone down at the gold as well as the first few roaches are getting on top of the roaches of Scarlett. Feels everywhere we look, Rogue is getting victories, but Scarlett is absolutely hanging in there.
Yeah, she is holding on. She still has these Banes that have been waddling back and forth between the gold and the natural multiple times over. Felt like Rogue was doing a good job of pulling those Banelings around, fighting where they were not. Now he does have a 3-worker lead. Army supplies have evened out. We're actually going to get an Ether Chamber down for Rogue.
Pretty crazy that Scarlett has lost 23 drones in a 6-minute game, but the worker count is only 4 difference. Rogue just losing way more Zerglings, and Scarlett doing a good job in, I guess, being able to sneak out those drones after losing a couple and still getting a pretty decent army out. I don't know if we can be aggressive. I feel like that's perhaps a little too much of the good stuff. Having a Ravager is nice, but if it's in the wide open, it's going to be a relatively easy target.
Yeah, we'll see what these Banelings can do, if anything at all, as Rogue is posturing to take a fight here. So roaches on roaches, the Banes will come through. You need a split against those. You got to respect them a little bit. Couple Lings coming forward, and Rogue going to lose a few. And here's come the rest of the Lings from Scarlett. Starting to steamroll through this now, and Rogue doesn't quite have the numbers. He sent more Lings across the map. Drones are going to try and protect, but his roaches are going down, and Scarlett's army supply, I mean, Rogue was just so far forward. He didn't need to be there, and now he's just losing everything.
Rogue only had 7 Lings on the map. Scarlett had 30 Zerglings on the map, and these Lings showed up at the right moment, really messed with the target fire of these roaches, and suddenly it feels like the ball is in Scarlett's corner, and Rogue's gonna have an incredibly hard time just dealing with this. I mean, Scarlett can mostly reinforce with Lings, but she still has so many roaches and 4 Ravages as well. 1 Ravager was decent. 4 Ravages is amazing, and despite the fact that Scarlett lost over 20 workers in a 7-minute and 30-second game, it's Scarlett who comes out on top. And you can see that Rogue looked a little flustered on that cam as well. It's like, what? Wait, why? How? Wasn't I doing all right? Well, we both thought he was doing all right, but Scarlett was just able to replace the units that she lost, or the workers that she lost, over and over again very quickly. And that actually never made it that bad for her economically.
Yeah, and Rogue was always giving up like a lot of Lings, right? So every single time the Lings were going down for him, Scarlett really kept a lot of Banes alive for a long time too, threatening to clean up. And there were, I suppose, quite a few Lings that jumped on the Queen, didn't get the kill, went to a mineral line, never found anything, got caught by Lings, and I guess that lack of efficiency in the end is what kind of really came back to bite Rogue a little bit.
Yeah, there was obviously 1 Queen in the main that could have gone down. The Banelings that blew up this spine, that wasn't necessarily the best trade. Obviously, you hope for a little more there, ideally a couple of Lings and stuff. But let's take another look at some of the highlights of Game 1. I actually feel like that Baneling should have just gone for all those drones, because a lot of them...
Because then the Lings would have had so many more kills, so much faster. Yeah, I felt like this one was cool too, and then Rogue doesn't quite kill the Queen for a moment, and it's just little things, right, that kind of add up over time, and yeah, I mean, this fight...
It's the Lings, man. Yeah. It's honestly just the Lings, because the Roach fight was relatively even, but Scarlett still had 30 Zerglings out on the map. Rogue only had 7 Lings, and most of them were actually attacking the Queen at the gold. Just felt that Rogue never expected Scarlett to have that many Lings and Roaches. Like, maybe a lot of Lings, sure, maybe a couple of Roaches in an even amount, that's fine. But then you can obviously just micro back, but slow Roaches cannot escape against that many Lings. A very impressive game 1 by Scarlett, because this wasn't an easy one, and it felt like she was on the ropes, but hang in there and actually turn it around.
Yeah, crazy kind of start of the series. Rogue is going to drop down that 1 map, and Scarlett is going to have the advantage, and a little bit of momentum, something to work with perhaps, something you can kind of use to your advantage for sure. Yeah, it'd be fun to see what sort of styles come out in the next games, because obviously Blackburn out the way. Unless we see Pride, then gold bases aren't really a thing anymore, so that's worth keeping in mind. But I imagine a lot of these games become very scrappy and weird and crazy, and if Scarlett can win those kind of games, I think she's very well set for the series.
If you can just force it, and Rogue is obviously not the same Zerg as Zero is, where it comes to like, all right, let's stabilize, let's get up to 4 or 5 bases, like that's 70 workers. No, Rogue is a pretty scrappy player too, but in a weird way that does play into the strengths of Scarlett, because that's also where she shines. Actually a fun first game that I think sets the pace nicely for the rest of this best of 5.
Should be very fun as we dive into 2,000 atmospheres for map number 2. So one of the most standard maps,
Yeah.
one of the most normal go-tos, but of course in ZVZ, it's possible to mix it up, get aggressive.
And there's obviously a lot of weird things you can do as well. You can stay on 2 bases even if you don't have to, but then you can just kind of hide whatever you're doing behind that wall. And then for Zergs, it also becomes very hard to scout, kind of like how it's hard for Zerg to scout against a Protoss that always opens up with a Stargate because they pick off your Overlord early on. And let's see what this more normal map has in store for us. In the top right side, her magical journey is just continuing, representing the Shopify Rebellion, our Canadian Zerg player, Scarlett.
Bottom left-hand side, our blue Zerg from Dragon Phoenix Gaming is Rogue.
I was looking at the units that went down, obviously, and at one point Rogue did lose 40 more links. I was like, okay, that is a big amount of links to lose, but I never felt that he got the worst trades. I didn't see 20 links run into a Baneling somewhere. There were obviously 2-3 fights happening at any given moment, so it's hard for us to see all the little exchanges that took place, but still pretty surprised that Scarlett was able to stabilize as well as he did, and actually just have that overwhelming amount of Zerglings in the center of the map. Get such a convincing victory in the Roach versus Roach fight.
Crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. Very fun stuff. I mean, real kind of mental fortitude from Scarlett as well. When you're losing that many drones, just be like, okay, keep it going. Don't give up yet. Keep making what I can. Rebuild those drones for the 10th time, it feels like, at that point.
And imagine if that spine wasn't there, right? Then instead of that spine going down, Scarlett loses 10 plus extra workers. And then I don't believe that Rogue's roaches are ever in the center of the map. Because at that point, Rogue will look at it as like, okay, now I'm so far ahead economically. I really don't need to send my units towards the center. So that spine, honestly, was a 200 IQ spine.
Yeah, I mean, it was like, at the time, it was like, oh, a little bit weird, but she just knew what was coming from Rogue, and it played perfectly into that. As for the moment here on 2K Atmospheres, really nothing to talk about. Roddy getting hatch gas pool. Nobody's doing anything crazy for the moment in this series.
Yep, it all seems pretty standard. Rogue did look a little bit frustrated, but that's something that I think we're kind of used to. He's not the most emotional player. You won't see him throw a mouse through the room or something, but he does tend to just kind of shake his head every now and then and tilt his head a little bit when he's like, all right, I'm proper annoyed. Scarlett has not fired up link speed yet, but there we go. So he's going to get her own link speed a little bit later, a tad later than Rogue, but no big difference there.
Not really much at all. Very minor differences altogether. Scarlett is a little bit later on starting up some links, so has an extra drone earlier, but then we'll make 2 more links, so the back and forths of the early game ZVZ, and we're going to be seeing both looking to take a 3rd hatchery, both of them looking for the forward 3rd base as well, and that goes down pretty much in sync.
Yep, this does obviously mean that there is always some potential to morph links into banelings on the high ground, wiggle them down, and get on top of this mineral line. Wouldn't hate seeing both players send one of their 3rd or 4th overlords towards that high ground. For Scarlett on the right side of her 3rd, for Rogue on the left side, because I feel like that's something we see time and time again.
Yeah, absolutely, as the Banelin Nest comes in from Rogue. So, yeah, just going to be having that, while Scarlett's not going to go for that Bane Nest. And the longer you don't go for this, the more likely you're going to get up a bunch of Lings, then go straight into Ling Roach.
Yep, and you need to make a big swell of Zerglings, but Rogue is already making a lot of Lings way before, right? I feel like often it's too late for a Zerg player to really punish this. Now Rogue's getting his own Roach Warren behind all of this as well. I think it's very hard to punish someone that doesn't go for a Roach Warren with your own Ling Bane if you start making the units as a response to not seeing a Baning Nest. But if you make those units before already, then there should be a window for you to actually do something with your Lings and Banes. Let's take a look where the first Banelings are morphing. Kind of awkward spots, man. They're morphing so far away from each other. You don't see that very often.
Yeah, Skull drops down the Roach Drone, but she's still building drones, so I feel like nonetheless she's going to be in some trouble here. Ling's going to jump onto her 3rd base. She is on the way to the Roach Drone, but it's a long way off right now. And of course, Rogue's follow-up here is going to be a big swell of Roach Ling off of an extra hatch.
Scarlett is going to try to sacrifice this base and just stabilize behind her wall, whilst he's also firing up +1 melee, so that Roach Drone feels like a fake. And that could very well be just straight into Mutalisk. Rogue still building units though, and he really doesn't need units right now, but Rogue clearly wants to boss Scarlett on 2 bases.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Scarlett's just building drones and drones, so if she doesn't get attacked, she'd be in a great spot, but the way it's set up feels as though she is going to be in a lot of trouble. Rogue is only making Ling Bane though, so that's maybe one thing to look at here. One potential hold for Scarlett is that it's just Ling Bane versus Roaches.
But I still feel that Scarlett doesn't want to build too many roaches. He's going to put 2 roaches like relatively close to that wall to have a bit of extra DPS and be like, hi, I'm building roaches, you really shouldn't attack me. But Rogue has a lot of Lings and Banes. The Queen with most energy is in the front as well. Scarlett is going to get a couple of Zerglings, perhaps in the natural of Rogue. That could be annoying for Rogue, but I don't think Rogue's too concerned about what's happening at home. Rogue wants to win the game. Scarlett should definitely build Spine Crawlers now, and nothing but Roaches, but that is a ridiculous amount of Banelings. No Spire right now.
Yeah, dropping the Spire. I mean, she's just not made anything apart from these 2 Roaches. She's going to try and pull drones, but that's too much Ling Bane. This game, Roddy, is already done. She is just being greedy, 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 and never stopped. And that's where Rogue is just going to bounce back in this series.
Relentless aggression here by Rogue in the second game, getting a couple of great Baneling connections there, and that's obviously an overwhelming amount of Zerglings. A few Roaches are not going to save Scarlett anymore. At one moment I saw extra Roaches on the way. I was like, I think Scarlett has picked up on it. Maybe she can get that full wall up, maybe a couple of extra Roaches, and then a few Spines just to buy time. Because Rogue, make no mistake, was incredibly committed there. Being down 16 workers is a ludicrous amount of workers to be down. He just knew that he was going to get the job done.
Yeah, he just knew exactly what he wanted to do. And yeah, Scarlett did nothing to really respond to units, right? Like I say, she lost the third and was like, okay, surely you're going to let up now. You're up a base, and so I'm going to be greedy. Get all my drones out, get the Spire out, and maybe then I can make it happen off mutas. Obviously, when Rogue just keeps building units, then you're not set up for that at all.
Rogue starts off with some aggression, and he's like, aggression is good. Let's kick it into overdrive. Let's ramp it up, and let's be a lot more aggressive. And it's like, yeah, I often see people attacking with 5 Banelings. No, that's the wrong way to do it. Let me show you how you do it. And that is by going up to 10 plus Banelings and just building nothing but Lings.
Yeah, I mean, this amount of Banes crashed through the front. I mean, there's so many Banes left over after you break down the wall off as well. There's just, you could Baneling bust Roaches at this stage, right? So, way too many units. You can see Scarlett was up 20 plus workers just trying to get ahead, dropping the Spire down, all the money being spent in the wrong places. For Rogue to come on through and attack.
It felt that the timing of the very first big swell of Lings, the first 16 to 18 Lings that Rogue fired up, was absolutely perfect, because that is the moment where you can punish the no Baneling Nest opener. If you build it a little bit later, by the time that your opponent already has all those Lings out, and often the person that is skipping the Baneling Nest will be the one making those Lings first, to just make sure the fighting takes place on the other side of the map, and by the time that the dust has settled, they have got Roaches at home, right? But Rogue is like, nope, we're not gonna play that game. I'm gonna be already on the other side of the map, and I'll just continue being aggressive.
Continued aggression works out for game number 2. We're tied up 1-1, best of 5 semi-final in the DreamHack season finals. Scarlett and Rogue go into curious minds to talk about keeping up the aggression. This one is one to keep the aggression up on for sure.
Yep, but there is also a little ramp going into the natural, right? So we have seen, I think of Elaser is the first one I think of, a lot of 2 base openers with just a little bit of a wall off, and then it's so hard to figure out what's happening on the other side of the wall. I had an Italian boy in my living room who was molding about it a couple of times because it doesn't make any sense, and it's just so hard. It can be so many different things. What it can also be is a 12 pool, because it's a small map, and here we go. Bottom right side, our Korean Zerg representing Dragon, Phoenix, Gaming. It's Rogue.
12 pool, and in the top left corner of the map from the Shopify Rebellion, we have got Scarlett.
I'm gonna put you on the spot now, Wardy. We are 6 games in today. Has a single game reached double digits yet when it comes to the amount of minutes a game has gone on?
No.
No, right?
There's no way. The Clem Mara games, there's no way. Not even game 3, I don't think.
I don't think Blackburn was over 10 minutes either.
No. I don't think so. If it was, by like seconds.
yeah. Photo finish.
Yeah.
Let's check it again with our own stopwatch, guys. The Blizzard clock can be off a little bit. Well, Scarlett is 12 pooling. How are we feeling about it?
I like it. Small map. Rogue's going hatch first, then gas. I mean, it's the worst possible setup you could have in terms of, initial build order. They will get the spawning pool over here. That helps a lot if this is going to be a 12 pool drone pool, which it is not going to be. It's just a 12 pool. So in that regard, I really like it for Scarlett. It feels like it's a lot of potential to do a good amount of damage with your follow-up available as well. Yeah, I like it.
We're all pretty familiar with the ideal defense here. You want to wait a little bit and then kind of overpool drones and pretend you want to fight with the drones, but obviously don't fight unless you've got way more surface area on the Lynx and the Lynx get on your drones. Rogue is able to lose 3 drones here and be alright with it. If he loses more than 3, then I always feel it becomes questionable. And if Scarlett can find 5 drone kills, or of course the hatchery kill, then it's absolutely amazing for her. But you don't see that very often. So let's see if Scarlett can find the damage that he's looking for. I'd say 3 is the bare minimum.
Yeah, these few extra seconds help a lot, though, because look how much time she has to work on the hatchery initially, and now she's going to get back on it. And Lings have only just started up. Queens have only just started up. So you've got a long time where this drone dance has to continue. Now Scarlett finds the chance for one drone, and she's taken no damage on the Lings so far, so it's good.
Yep.
Turns around there. Obviously, anytime you pull away, it's time you're not spending on the hatchery, and now she's going to commit as the drones go the wrong way. Well, that's going to get interesting in a moment too. I mean, this is just lost mining time for a very long time. That's something you don't usually see, right? As now the Lings come in. Now we're going to make this a fight. Second drone goes down.
Still pretty good defense, I think, by Rogue. Sure, he played it very safe with a lot of lost mining time, but for a split second, I thought that was going to be a whole lot worse than what it actually turned out to be. I think it's pretty close, but I don't hate it for Rogue.
Yeah, I don't hate it for Rogue either. I was thinking about, I think it's obviously more lost time mining time than usual, because usually when those Lings out, the drones are more or less straight back to mining. Yeah. Maybe that can make up for the extra drone Scarlett didn't find. She does keep all her Lings alive as well, though, so she doesn't have to make extra. True. She's a couple drones ahead. Okay, I can see it either way. Scarlett starts double gas. That's the one part she'll be behind in at the moment.
I mean, it's the beautiful thing about StarCraft, right? Sometimes nobody is ahead, and it's just a game.
Sometimes it's just a game. We play it out evenly, and on we go. I think the drones are kind of cool as well, because they kind of baited the Lings to chase them. Yeah. But then obviously they're not hitting the hatchery, which is Rogue's main concern. That Scarlett just full commits to killing that hatchery off. And then you would be in trouble. So I liked it, because it was almost like a guaranteed, like, oh, look, you're going to chase these, and then I'm not in a bad spot.
I also like what Rogue did with the drones at one point while he was defending. He could have just attacked, but instead he moved Commandant a bit closer towards the north side, and then he's like, now I'm gonna fight, because that actually kind of almost trapped the Lings. Scarlett was aware of it and reacted very quickly to it, though, to prevent some sort of a doom scenario, or she ends up losing all of her own Lings. And look at this Wardy. Curious Minds, and Rogue fires up +1 melee.
Yeah, gonna go very melee heavy, as so is Scarlett. So we're gonna see a lot of Lings on a lot of Lings. The Roach Drone here from Rogue is not likely to be used in this game. You only ever really see that if it's a Carapace upgrade, of course. So into Ling speed we go beyond that melee upgrade, and they're both doing the same thing, but Scarlett's just gonna do it off of a few more workers.
Yep, and Scarlett does have a Queen more, so that's obviously nice for her too. Well, don't hate it. Scarlett has obviously done things well over the last few minutes. Rogue's gonna fire up a couple of extra Lings at this point. Maybe looking to either protect his own hatch or just get a quick cancel on a hatchery on the other side of the map. But Scarlett does scout right now that Rogue is expanding. This is going to be a wild one, Wardy.
Yeah, it really is. There's obviously... It's always fun when you see kind of Ling on Ling. Now we're going to start a Baneling Nest here from Rogue, and I feel like Scarlett probably wants to do the same right down the line, because without a Bane Nest, this is Ling Bane versus Lings. It's not going to be pretty.
Yeah, but I wonder if Scarlett is even thinking about like Lings and +1 melee. Like, obviously she's doing it, so there's potential for it. As her second Evo is done, is going to fire up Carapace. I mean, by the time that's done, it's going to be awesome, but I feel like that Carapace upgrade takes forever. Once it finishes up, it's big, because then Zerglings don't die anymore against a single Baneling connection, but I guess if the Banes have +1 again, that kind of gets neglected. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think the Baneling Nest is the main feature here. Rogue might be down in workers, he might have a tiny bit of army supply lead, but just having a Bane Nest, I think, goes for so much more than anything else. As now Scarlett starts to make a corray across the map. Rogue knows it as well, so can morph in Banelings defensively. Scarlett needs to know what's going on here, otherwise she might be in some trouble, but she's going to get on this third hatchery really quickly. Size of the map, of course, coming into play. So she's on top of that. She sends her Lings into the natural, sees the Banelings morphing, so knows what's happening. We'll get the hatchery, and Rogue's not going to have a counter until the Banelings are ready to go.
Scarlett was building 2 hatches at once there for it.
She's built roaches.
Yeah, well, that's... Don't hate it, but I wonder where Rogue his units were, because Rogue had plenty of units out there. Like, Rogue was actually not down in the Ling count, maybe a couple of Lings, but definitely not that many that he was that he had to be ultra concerned about this fight. So now things are gonna get a little bit wild here. I don't see there are 13 Banelings, Waddy, but where are they?
They're coming down from the left side, I believe, very soon. First one comes in, Scarlett has to start dodging. There's still 12 left. Here they are, all of these Banelings moving forward. They've got to bust through the wall, though. I mean, I guess you just get the hatchery here, so that's going to be a cancel for Scarlett. Then she's got roaches against Ling Bane. I mean, it's 2 base on 2 base. I don't hate it for Scarlett being on roaches already. She's about to have Carapace. That will help a lot. And she starts a lair, and she's still up in workers.
Yep, that was a big Baneling commitment, and obviously just killing the hatch alone after losing your own hatch. Like, if Rogue didn't lose his hatchery, this would all be fine, right? You'd be like, oh yeah, you kind of got done what you're looking for. Rogue is going to build more Zerglings, 16 extra Lings on the way.
I mean, Scarlett getting the Baneling Nest is going to be what wins of this game, right? Because with Banelings, you can deal with this so easily, plus the roaches. Roach Bane beats Ling Bane.
Rogue is in serious trouble. It almost feels that Rogue is hoping that Scarlett just made a couple of safety roaches and will plant down a Spire again, right? It feels that that's what Rogue is hoping for. That's his ideal scenario, and then he's going to bust through and completely overwhelm Scarlett. But Scarlett has more army supply than Rogue, and Rogue's being the aggressor. This really goes against all the laws of SC2. The Roach Run does get blown up. It's a lot of Lings and a lot of Banelings, but Scarlett should always be fine here.
She should always be fine. Her Roaches, yeah, they take some damage, but they do not fall. And now Scarlett, she's on her way to that +1 missile. She's got the carapace. Rogue is making a lair. As he realizes he's in some trouble, Scarlett has to rebuild the Roach-Ron, so she'll make Lings and now a few Banes. I think that's plenty to hold off what Rogue has.
You don't often see one player basically being on 3 bases, the other one being on 2, but the one on 2 having more army supply, yet the one on 3 bases is stacking into the player that has more army supply on 2 bases. This is not something you see very often. Scarlett making all the correct choices, and Rogue just perhaps misreading it or hoping for something that wasn't actually happening.
Yep, a few Lings going to continue through. A couple of Banes morphing on this ramp as Scott is going to be able to defend. Her units are across the map now. Rogue has nothing to fight this. I mean, okay, you just started to complete the wall. She's going to get rid of the Roach-Ron, knowing that that's a good structure just to be rid of already. And if she can get her way in here and start doing damage, then brilliant. There are Lings looking to come in from behind, but that's where Scarlett's Banelings come into play, Roddy. As she is in, getting rid of Spinecrawl after Spinecrawl. I just don't see what you do as Rogue. You're down heavily in upgrades, you're down in the unit count, and you're down in the tech, and every single way you're behind.
Rogue's micro is phenomenal, but you can't just out-micro 6 Banelings if you don't have any Banelings yourself. These Banelings have been very well protected. Rogue is going to try to counter-attack. There are Banelings here too. They don't quite get the connection that Scarlett is perhaps hoping for, but does that really matter when Scarlett is doubling the supply of Rogue and is now 1 map away from making it to the grand finals of the DreamHack Masters Winter Season Finals 2021. And she's looking good so far.
She is looking good, and I feel like this game she really saw what Rogue can do, right? She's like, okay, you like being aggressive, but her setup was so good in case Rogue kept on the gas pedal and kept on attacking. And so then Rogue falls behind. What we didn't see in the second game is what Scarlett did in this game.
Absolutely.
Made the difference in otherwise a very similar setup.
But I do really wonder how this entire game plays out if Rogue doesn't lose his hatchery. Because I don't think Rogue had to lose his hatchery. He was matching the circling count of Scarlett, maybe a couple of Lings less, but that's where Defender's advantage comes in. That's where that quicker Baneling nest could have came in handy. I honestly thought that was a bit of a weird sacrifice by Rogue.
Yeah, it was definitely a little bit weird. I will find out more about it and how the series continues after a quick little break. Welcome back, everybody, as Scarlett leads 2-1 in this semi-final, looking for a grand final appearance and looking to shut up Rogue a little bit, Roddy.
Oh, and shut up almost every one of us, because I don't think many people would have predicted Scarlett to make it to the grand finals. I think her best performance in all of her previous appearances in season finals was that quarterfinal against Innovation, where she was very close to make it to the semis, but in the end, she got reverse swept. Now she's one map away from making the grand final, something that a player like Clem has not even done in 6 seasons, which really goes to show how impressive this run of Scarlett is. One map, ZVZ, it's very possible.
It is very possible. You just got to win 1 out of 2. Maybe do something a little cheeky, a little cheesy. It's very possible. I'd be hating to be in Rogue's spot right now because these games have been kind of wild as well. It's, you know, difficult to read. Oh, he's going to get aggressive. All right, let's get to the intros then. Top left side of the map is making a drone, is making an overload. It's Scarlett.
The bottom right side, the man who just got 12 pulled wants to be the 12 puller this time around. That's honestly a high-risk strategy, because imagine if Scarlett goes pull before hatch, but this man is not afraid to take any risk. This is Rogue.
Can you imagine she went pull before hatch? That would be...
Yeah. I honestly have the feeling that if she had any contact with Lambo would probably be like, Rogue's gonna 12 pull.
Yeah.
But
it's going to be hatchery first. We'll see what she follows up with, of course. If you go pool then gas, it's a little faster to your Ling production. It helps out just a little bit, but it looks as though we're going to see something fairly standard here as we get ourselves set up on this. Obviously, a gas from Rogue as well, so he's going to go full on one base all in this situation. Oh my goodness.
Is it Rogue or Denver? The Denver special coming out of Rogue here. One base, Ling Bane by the looks of it. Scarlett is obviously not going to be able to find this out until her Overlord makes it all the way into the natural of Rogue. She's going to probably see the Zerglings. Did Rogue do anything, by the way, with mining out minerals? Yes, he did. At least on his side of the map.
Yes, he opened up the minerals initially. Scarlett is going to see that, so she's going to see the Lings coming across. So immediately knows it's a 12 pool. Of course, when she scouts, she's still going to see a hatchery, right? So this looks like it's one of those cheeky builds that Scarlett did against Rogue way back when, where you kind of take the hatchery as though it's a normal 12 pool. Scarlett maybe doesn't realize there's gas in play, and then it's a really weird situation.
Yeah, so it's actually very different than what I thought it was going to be. Rogue just kind of pulling out all the tricks here. Is going to have very quick Ling speed, but then stops mining gas. So it's not going to be one base Ling Bane. It's just going to be a lot of Lings with speed incredibly early on. Here come the drones from Scarlett. We just saw pretty decent defense by Rogue in the previous game. How good is Scarlett? Her defense is he's going to trap a couple of these Lings. And Rogue's like, all right, if you want to fight, let's fight. A lot of drones are low on HP, though. I think Scarlett needs to be a bit careful. So many drones are very low on HP. I don't think she can take another fight with the drones.
No, she needs the Lings, and they are here now. 2 drones down, pulling back the Lings a little bit, trying to protect those drones. Still, the drones need to come through and sort of help. A couple more Lings showing up. Scarlett starts to drone, and the issue is, of course, Ling speed's coming in soon. Lings are massing up from Rogue, and this is where it's going to get very dangerous for Scarlett.
This is such an insane build by Rogue, right? Like, what I've seen the Koreans do quite a few times is when they get 12 pull, they defend, they get Ling speed, and they actually just pocket up a million Zerglings. But doing it while you're also the 12 puller, like, there are so many scenarios where Rogue could just run into a brick wall, and it would be all over. Now, this is not one of them yet, but if Scarlett can just get a little glimpse of that main base of Rogue, which is very difficult. But the moment that Ling speed kicks in, which is going to kick in 6-5 seconds, very unfortunate timing on this Ling going down for Scarlett.
Yeah, she's moving this Overload away as well, so she might not see the Ling starting to run around either. Okay, she's pulling it back. She is going to see the Ling speed, but she's starting up so many drones. Scarlett's in a lot of trouble. She's pretty much just got to go and defend on one base and pull the drones up there, get the queens to wall off. There's no other real option for her. The Lings are coming. She starts the spine, I assume, on the high ground. Here comes the double queen defense. A few Lings to try and help out as well. Even the drones are going to come down, just do what they can with the queens to try and hold the ramp. Scarlett can afford to lose some drones, but can she afford to lose a hatchery? That's probably a different question. A lot of drones starting to go down. She pulls them up to the high ground. Her queen's trying to hold. She's got like a secondary wall off. The drones come in again. Ling's on the way, still spine in the main. But again, if you get knocked down on one base, does it matter? 14 drones dead. The worker count's starting to go in Rogue's favor as well. A transfusion came in, but this hatchery is just gonna no. I mean, Ling's coming through from Scarlett. Maybe she can hold, but she's got to play so defensive to the ramp.
Yeah, no transfuse available anymore. Rogue is obviously the one with way more micro potential, but he does kind of want to get this hatch. He doesn't have to. Now he can get the queens. I think it's pretty much all over Waddy. There are a couple of extra Lings showing up here for Rogue. It takes an absolute mad lad to do this in the semifinals when you're down 1-2. But Rogue is just that kind of crazy Zerg. The man is not afraid to take an insane amount of risk. He's gonna grab a few more drones as there are a few more Lings nibbling away at that hatch. Oh, that Queen is gonna be in a bit of trouble too. I don't know if the Link count was high enough, but Scarlett is down to 5 drones. C knows it, Rogue knows it. We are going to the rubber match after a 4-minute and 45-second game 4. I cannot believe how calm he looks. What? The variance in a build like this is through the roof, okay? And you would normally say, if you're the underdog and you're up 2-1, sure, you can do something like this. But Rogue is the favorite. Rogue is one of the most accomplished StarCraft 2 players of all time. He is supposed to be the quote-unquote better player. He just took an insane amount of risk.
Crazy risk pays off, and now he's got to game number 5. Scarlett, I mean, it's one of those builds, right, where it's just so tricky to scout. You said it, that single Ling's trying to pick up, and it was almost so close, right? You know, there was moments where I was like, maybe, and she just lost a few too many drones at the end. If she keeps 4 or 5 more drones alive and she has a spine, it's possible. I mean, it's crazy how close a lot of these games are turning out to be.
It is obviously very hard to wall off on Berlin Ground, so that is one argument we can make for it. I gotta say, though, I thought the opening was already decent here for Rogue, right? Managed to find 3 drones. That's 1 more than Scarlett found in her previous game when C12 pulled. But even the Link skirmish didn't go all that bad. A lot of these drones were left low in HP, and you look at this, it is quite hard. This is not one of these maps where you can build 2 buildings and you're walled off. Like, no, you're gonna need 3 at least, and then a Queen in position.
Yeah, this is brutal. I really think she made the most of it for how late she saw it, but it was just not enough. You're not catching up on Lings, you're not hitting your injects right, so you can't keep producing. And of course, once you go down in drones, it's not like Rogue is down a hatchery, so he just straight up out-produces you.
Yep, Rogue did obviously have that second hatch, even if he only had 12 drones throughout the entirety of that game. If that one Zergling that Scarlett used to scout would have somehow showed up a few seconds later, and it spots the moment Link speed finishes up, I think all alarm bells go off immediately. It's like, whoa, that's way too quick to have Link speed already after you also 12 pool opened. And then Scarlett is maybe able to stop building drones, get a couple of, maybe an extra Queen out, a couple of extra defensive Links, quicker spine. There is a chance then for sure.
But at least we're going to a game 5. Obviously, our first use of the day is a little bit like, oh, but this one, heating up a little bit. Even if the games are aggressive and not going beyond 5 minutes, it's still 5 maps.
Is this the season finals done quick? Is it National Speedrunning Week or something? Like, I have no idea what's happening. The average game length is like 6 minutes today. But we are at least going to a game 5, and that is something that we all enjoy, as we have loaded into Glittering Ashes. In the top right side, we're looking at the main base of our Canadian Zerg, still representing the Shopify Rebellion. It is Scarlett.
Bottom left corner with absolutely no fear. Our blue Zerg from Dragon Phoenix Gaming is Rogue.
Ridiculously risky build to play in game 4 when you're down 1-2. But hey, it worked. So the Mad Lad just knows when to roll the dice and, I don't know, hit midnight or something. In craps terms, I think that's the thing.
Yeah. I won't doubt you, Roddy.
It's not popular in Europe, but
no?
A few times we went to Vegas, roll little dice, double 6. Always beautiful. I mean, I'm fascinated by it. Because you think that Rogue is a very confident man. He should know that even if the games like reach the stage where you both get 3 bases and 50 plus workers, he played very good on 2K Atmosphere against Sarah in a game that started off relatively normal and actually had a relatively slow pacing. So you think that he was kind of looking for that. Instead, he's like, no, I want more of the first 3 games, but even crazier, give it to me. It's like, Rogue, perhaps this is why you're the only 2-time Intel Extreme Masters Katowice champion that the world of StarCraft 2 has ever seen.
Well, this game at least will start off with a little bit of normality. Hatch, gas, and pool. It's a long map as well. I mean, that didn't stop Rogue yesterday, obviously, against Sarah with the drone pull and all that. But today it is going to be a little bit more normal, and we will at least get to see a regular opening for the first few minutes.
This does feel like a map where you just want to play Mutas, right?
Yes.
The only question is, like, how quickly can I get to Mutas? Do I just want to get +1 melee immediately as well? If I do that, though, is there a chance I get Nidus? Is there a chance that Queens and Roaches with +1 show up before my Mutas reach a critical number? Now look at this map, and I feel like both of them would love to be the player that can just stabilize in 3 bases plus with +1 melee and links and flyer attacks. And a small chance we even see Muta against Muta here.
Yeah, Muta vs. Muta can be pretty cool. It's something you don't see all the time, but if you do both get into it, it can be very back and forth and very action-packed with Lings running around the map as support as well. So one of the higher kind of action ZVZ mid-games you get.
Rogue and Dark had a Mutas EVZ on this map, correct? In the group stage?
Was it this map?
I thought it was.
Yeah, I think they did. Actually.
They had like 40 plus Mutalisk, and I think there was a little.
Right, and on the right side, Dark fought when he didn't need to fight in Rogue One. Yes,
exactly.
I had the Berlingrad game in my mind, but yes, they did.
I mean, that's a hard one to get out of your mind.
Yeah, that game was pretty crazy. So, yeah, no, they did end up Muta versus Muta there. As so far here, we go Baneling Nest apiece, third hatchery apiece, and obviously it does set up, at least for now, to maybe start moving toward it. It all depends if one player wants to start being aggressive.
I always feel just nervous and anxious when I look at these scenarios. Game 5 of a semifinals, Glittering Ashes, impossible to have Overlords everywhere in all the correct locations to keep a really close eye on where these Zerglings are potentially morphing into Banelings. And sometimes 2 early game Banelings is all it really takes to create a 7 or 8 worker advantage and run away with it. Has to be so nerve-wracking for both players.
Good scouting denial here from Rogue, who has his Rotoron in the back of the natural. So he is trying to hide that. He wants this to be something which is not seen by Scarlett. And so far, he's doing exactly what he needs to make sure to, that isn't seen. Baneling's on the way from Scarlett, though, so she's going to have a really good initial defense. But then can she deal with the Roaches on the follow-up? Well, right now, it looks as though she will at least deal with the third attack. And kind of decently, a few more drones on the way, but she kind of needs to know about the Roaches at some point, no?
There are 2 Banelings of Rogue going to try to make their way into the natural. Yeah, absolutely. I almost feel that Scarlett overdid it a little bit. I think that she expected way more Link Bane aggression to come out of Rogue. But Rogue is, I think, getting the upper hand of the mind games here, because forcing out 7 defensive Banelings, while you only made 2 Banelings on the other side of the map, that has to feel good. Of course, it's still something that if you're Rogue, you need to worry about too. If everything makes it to the other side of the map, it gets a bit gnarly. But if you ask me, this was a pretty big victory for Rogue. Not because of the damage he dealt, but because of the amount of Banelings he forced out. And Scarlett still doesn't know about the Roaches until now. The Roaches are going to make their way to the other side of the map. What do we do, Wardy? Do we cancel the Extractors? Do we drop Spine Crawlers? We need to react to all these Roaches that are heading our way.
I've got no idea. She's supply blocked as well, so she couldn't make any more Lings until just now. The Roach Run gets blocked by a Ling. I feel like this is starting to be a sad ending. The only thing I can see is you get your Banes onto the Lings, you get your Lings surrounding the Roaches, but she is just at the moment seemingly fallen apart. Bane's on the way from Rogue now as well, as Scarlett just does not have the numbers, and she's got a hand off the keyboard. She knows it's over.
Rogue has done it again. These Banelings are going to get some decent connection with the Roaches, but that's not going to be good enough. The few Lings of Scarlett will get blown up by this Baneling as well, and Rogue, you can see the relief there, the double fist pump. I mean, that's happier than he was when he won Katowice twice, so this clearly